From mythical creatures found in the Bible to monsters still seen in the shadows, these beings were never just myths. Some were real and others still exist out there. Number 7. Kraken. As far back as the 12th century, sailors and people living near the sea told scary stories about the Kraken, a giant sea monster that looked like a squid. They said it attacked ships and pulled them underwater. The story probably began in the waters around Norway, Iceland, and Greenland. It spoke of a huge creature with long arms that could grab whales or smash large ships. The Kraken didn't just attack, it pulled ships down and made a strong whirlpool that sank everything and everyone on board. Like many old stories, this one was probably made bigger and scarier over time. But the first report of someone seeing the Kraken goes back to the year 1180. At that time, sailors didn't know about giant squids, so when they saw something strange in the water, they thought it was a sea monster that ate people. But what if the stories were true? In 1853, something big washed up on a beach in Denmark. It was a huge sea animal. The first time something like that had been seen up close, and it looked a lot like the Kraken from the old stories. Since then, scientists have asked how many kinds of giant squid exist and how big they can get. But can any of them reach the size people talked about in the past? Think about this. Animals like the megalodon and nothosaurus were real, and the biggest squid found so far was 43 feet long, about 13 meters. So many believe a squid that big could be real. But that's not all. In 2011, scientists found bones from very old sea reptiles. The bones were placed in a strange way. Some scientists said only a huge octopus or kraken-like squid could have done it. One scientist, Professor Mark McMenamin, has spent years trying to show that these giant squid were real. He looked at the bones of a sea reptile called a Shawneesaurus, which lived 200 million years ago. The bones weren't spread out, and they were grouped together. He also saw marks that looked like they were made by squid suckers, and the neck looked broken, so he believes something big attacked it. The way the bones were placed is like how today's octopuses pull food to their homes, but this sea creature would have had to be over 30 meters long to kill and eat that big reptile. That's more than twice the size of any squid we've ever found. So, was the Kraken real? Maybe. The old stories from sailors might not be all made up, and the deep ocean, which we still don't fully understand, could have been, or maybe still is, home to a creature like the Kraken. Number 6. Werewolves. Stories of humans turning into wolves go back thousands of years, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to ancient Greek legends. But some of these weren't just stories. One of the most scary real-world cases was the Beast of Gévaudan, a mysterious creature that frightened people in 18th century France. It attacked dozens of victims, but even big wolf hunts failed to stop the killings. So people began to wonder, was it one giant wolf or something more? Some believe it was just a very large predator, but others think it was something else entirely, something sick. Some scientists think the werewolf story might be based on real things. One cause could be a rare illness called hypertrichosis, a sickness that makes hair grow too much but doesn't change how people act, mixed with rabies, which can drive its host to bite and fear water, even holy water. Rabies hurts the brain and nerves, causing confusion, anger, and sometimes making people see things that aren't real. It grows in the spit, so it spreads easily through a bite. Sick animals often become violent and hard to predict, and they turn on people without warning. Number 5. Trolls. We've all seen trolls in movies, huge, ugly giants hiding under bridges. But in old stories from Northern Europe, trolls weren't always huge. Some were actually the size of regular people, with flat noses and rough features. Sounds strange, right? But some people believe trolls came from real ancient humans called Neanderthals. These ancient humans lived mostly in Europe. They had flat noses, strong bodies, and they didn't look pretty, but they were smart, and they knew how to make tools. Here's the interesting part. Neanderthals disappeared about 40,000 years ago, but for thousands of years before that, they lived side by side with early humans. So after they disappeared, stories about them may have slowly turned into myths. People may have remembered them as strange, scary beings, and over time, those memories became the troll stories we know today. Number 4. Cyclops. Have you ever heard of a creature so strange it had only one eye right in the middle of its head? That's the Cyclops, a giant said to live in dark caves, eating animals, and sometimes humans. Sounds wild, right? But here's the shocking truth. This myth may have started with something real. Thousands of years ago, ancient Greeks discovered giant skulls with a huge hole in the center. They had no idea what elephants were at the time, so they thought the hole was an eye socket. To them, it looked like proof that one-eyed monsters once roamed the earth. But the truth? That hole wasn't for an eye. It was for a trunk. These Cyclops skulls were actually the turned-to-stone bones of ancient elephants like the Dinotherium or woolly mammoths. The bones were real, but the monsters were not. So the Cyclops wasn't born from pure imagination. It was a real fossil, misunderstood. Number 3. Bunyip. In the deep swamps and waterholes of Australia, there's a terrifying legend. The Bunyip. Aboriginal stories say it hides near rivers, waiting in the shadows. Some say it even attacks humans. But what makes this creature so scary? They describe it as a giant beast, like a wombat mixed with something far more disturbing. Others say it looked more like a black seal with a bone-chilling scream that could freeze you in place. Most today say the Bunyip is just a myth. But what if it isn't? Around 65,000 years ago, when the first humans reached Australia, they didn't walk into paradise. They walked into a nightmare. Towering reptiles like Megalania hunted the land, and meat-eating marsupials like Thylacoleo stalked the forests. Even the peaceful giants like Diprotodon, a wombat the size of a car, could have left behind footprints too strange to explain. So it's possible that ancient people saw these creatures, or their bones, and passed down what they remembered. Maybe they even heard strange cries from seals trapped inland after floods, and mistook them for monsters in the dark. So is the Bunyip real? Yes, but not in the way we imagine. Its legend may come from real beasts that once ruled Australia, and whose shadows still haunt its waters today. Number 2. Leviathan. Leviathan wasn't just a myth. It's mentioned in the Bible as a sea monster so strong nothing could tame it. But here's something even weirder. People all over the world talk about huge sea monsters. Old Greeks spoke of snakes with very long necks, but sailors in Asia and the Pacific said they saw massive shadows slipping beneath the deep dark waves. These people never met, yet described nearly the same monster. That's not a coincidence. Why did so many believe something like this existed? About 50 million years ago, a real sea snake named Palaeophis ruled the oceans. It was over 30 feet long, the size of 4 small cars. It lived in warm coastal waters, so people long ago could have found its bones or seen rare survivors. But scientists say it's gone now. Still, over 95% of the ocean is unexplored, so some believe distant cousins may still be alive in the deep, causing modern sea serpent stories. But Leviathan might not have been a snake at all. Some stories describe it as something even bigger. There was a giant whale called Leviathan. It had teeth as long as your hand and hunted other whales. Some believe it even fought the megalodon and won. So, scientists named it after the famous Leviathan. Leviathan wasn't just a myth. It was inspired by real monsters like giant whales and giant sea serpents that once ruled our oceans. And maybe something just as terrifying is still hiding deep below the waves. Number 1. Chupacabra. The chupacabra is a terrifying, blood-hungry creature, but it's not ancient. It appeared in 1995 in Puerto Rico when 8 healthy sheep were found dead. No struggle, just 2 holes in their necks, no blood. At first, no one had answers, but when nearly 1,000 animals died the same way, panic spread. Locals named the killer Chupacabra, which means goat sucker in Spanish. The name stuck, so did the fear. Witnesses described a short, muscular creature with claws and spikes down its back. Some said it jumped fences and vanished. Others saw a bald, dog-like beast with thick gray skin. The sightings spread. Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Florida. The monster had gone global. Photos and videos surfaced. But one case stood out. In 2007, a woman in Texas found a strange dead animal near her ranch. Her chickens had been drained of blood. She froze the head and gave it to scientists. Scientists looked closer and discovered that most chupacabras were coyotes with mange, an illness that makes them lose hair and look strange. But mange doesn't drain blood. It doesn't leave clean bite marks. That's why some people still wonder if the chupacabra might be real, hidden in the shadows. But it's not the only one. There are 7 other terrifying creatures you've heard of before, but they actually existed. So click here to watch the second part of this series and discover which legends were based on truth.